Zed OTPs use different runes all the time, and as somebody who wants to get better with Zed, it can be so confusing what to pick. Like, there are 4 different choices that you can take: Electrocute, Conqueror, First Strike and Comet. You're probably asking yourself, but how in the world am I supposed to know what runes to use then? Ask no more, because in this video I'm going to explain you how Zed one tricks pick their runes. So there are 2 main elements that go into picking the right runes: who you are laning against and the rest of the enemy team comp. You should always base your pick on the first element, because against some champions you can take only a specific rune page unless you want to have the worst f***ing time of your life in laning phase. So first make sure that your rune is good against your laning opponent. And the second element, you can base your pick on the rest of the enemy team. For example, if the enemy team has many tanks and fighters, so of course you're going to go for Conqueror, and if they have squishes, you will take Electrocute or First Strike. And you might be like, but Fiddle, how should we determine if we pick our runes based on our lane opponent or the rest of the enemy team? Okay, let me give you a real example. Let's say that you play against Kassadin, Aurelion Sol or Talia. Against those champions, both Electrocute and Conqueror are really good, because Zed shits on those champions regardless. So if the rest of the enemy team is kinda squishy, take Electrocute, but if the enemy team has more fighters and tanky champions, feel free to take Conqueror. There is always one rune page that suits Zed the best each season, and if you're looking for a rune page that works the best most games, in this season it's definitely Conqueror. You can take this rune page most games, it's good against fighters and also squishier mage champions in lane, and the scaling of this rune page is also insane. Personally, I like to take bomb plating and overgrowth secondary if I'm playing against fighter champions like Yasuo or Sylas, because it makes your laning phase so much easier and you can out-trade them and win it at the end. Just look at this example. Here I'm against Yasuo, and the thing that helps me survive early game is bomb plating. Only because of that I can take some trades versus him, which makes him pretty low and my jungler can comp to actually gank him. After some time I'm the one getting ganked, but thanks to the survivability of Resolve and the stacking of Conqueror, I can actually pick up a kill on Jarvan 4. That's why Conqueror is so good against fighters, because it can allow you to win those longer fights.
This is fucking bullshit. This is fucking bullshit.
When I got my Eclipse, the lane was completely over for Yasuo. Eclipse allows me to freely stack Conqueror without losing trades versus him, and then after I ult him, the only thing he can do is run away. So because Conqueror allowed me to win the laning phase, I used that to take over the mid game. Okay, so now that you know when to take Conqueror, let me show you when to take Comet. It seems like a troll rune, and your opponents are maybe going to laugh about it until they feel the power of this rune and get absolutely fucked. So you take Comet against champions that are squishy but have really long range, like Victor, Xerath and Hui. You see, First Strike is not good against them because they can easily poke you first, and it also doesn't deal as much damage as Comet. Electrocute is also not that good, since it's hard to hit both shurikens when your enemies are far away from you. Also, Conqueror doesn't make that much sense, since they will just outpoke you and you can't really all-in them at that point. So the perfect choice against them is definitely Comet, and let us see a few examples. The great thing about Comet is that you don't even have to hit 2 shurikens to deal a lot of poke damage. Your E slow procs the Comet, and just 1 shuriken is enough to make your opponent's life miserable. So with Comet you just want to keep poking whenever you can, and at level 6 your opponent will be super low, so if they don't recall you can just all-in them pretty easily. A lot of people think that Comet is only for poke and that it doesn't allow you to burst somebody down, but that's not true. As you can see here, I can still kill Hui with my lead even without ultimate. So Comet is naturally going to allow you to get solo kills in laning phase, and when you get to your first item, it's completely over for your opponents. Even if you don't get that many solo kills in laning phase, Comet will allow you to get ahead in farm if your opponents are going to go back constantly because of all the poke. Okay, now let's talk about Electrocute. Electrocute is good when you have a really free matchup like Asadin, Aurelion Sol or Talia, but it's also good against those blink mobile fast champions like LeBlanc or Katarina. No other rune makes that much sense against them when you think about it. Conqueror is not good because they are too mobile, so you can't make use of it. Comet not that great since they can just dash away, of course. And First Strike is not good since you will lag damage and they might proc it away from you. I'm talking about you, LeBlanc. So the only thing that makes sense is Electrocute. Against those really fast dashy champions, the fights are going to be super close and quick, so you have to have Electrocute in order to deal enough damage to kill them. With First Strike you will lag damage and Comet will probably miss. With that lead that you got from killing your opponents in laning phase, you can use to dominate late game and one-shot squishes with Electrocute and some lethality items. And last but not least is First Strike. There are two main variations that I use. The first rune page is by far the best scaling rune page on Zed, but you will struggle to get early solo kills with that rune. I personally take it against champions that are really hard to solo kill for Zed in laning phase, so in that way you can at least farm a lot of money on them. Those champions are Akali, Gragas, Malphite and so on. The thing that you want to do in that laning phase is just stay back, keep your distance and never really all in them and just keep farming gold whenever you can with WEQ. Your enemies are going to get real impatient because they know they're slowly losing and they are on a clock, tick-tock, so some of them will forcefully try to engage you. The reason why Akali made that risky engage on me there is because when I get the clips the whole lane is over for her, so she can't just let me farm gold on her whenever I have First Strike up. But of course it didn't end up well for her. I got the clips pretty fast because of the First Strike gold, and then the whole lane phase is over for her, as you can see here. The second variation of the rune page is pretty much the same, you just add bomb plating and overgrowth. I personally like this rune page against champions like Akshan or Kiana because it allows you to survive the laning phase and you outscale them with just one item, and that is Eclipse. As you can see, even from level 1, bomb plating helps so much because it blocks 60 damage from the all-in from Akshan, which is huge. You really need to have bomb plating in that laning phase to help you survive before level 6. At level 4 and 5 your Qs are going to deal more damage, and combined with First Strike it's pretty nice poke damage. So because bomb plating helped me survive the early laning phase, after I got my ultimate the lane gets completely flipped around because now I can actually kill Akshan. Now the game is pretty much over for Akshan because on my next back I will get, you guessed it right, Eclipse. And that's it. Hopefully you did enjoy this video and learned something new. A lot of my viewers who watch my videos are not subscribed, so if you like my videos it would mean a lot to me if you did. Thank you for watching guys, and see you next time.